I grew up in Southern Sudan, in a small village called Yei. Life in my village, I think we were not wealthy, but life in the village before the war came, it was a wonderful life. My brother and I would go herding the cows, going to school under the tree. Yes, and then going to church on Sundays. My parents were Christians, and they made sure that as children we went to church. Though it was not something that I loved, but we were forced to sit there. But now I realize, looking back, those moments when I sat down and really listened, those are the words that I listened to that formed the foundation of my faith. Yes, it's just amazing how God works. It was a time in the 80s when the Second Civil War had started, and in 89, when I was 12 years, the war intensified in my village, and then my parents were killed, and a number of family members were slaughtered in a very terrible way. My parents were slaughtered in front of me and my brother. We were tied together, so we were left in the hut as they burned their bodies, and the members from the Sudanese People's Liberation Army, when they heard that our village was under attack, they came to rescue the people that remained there. It took many days through the forest, and some people died, others could not make it. By God's grace, I ended up in a refugee camp in northern Uganda. I studied in a small town called Nimole, and the situation in the refugee camp was difficult. Survival was hard. My brother was 14 years, I was 12. We were supposed to be our parents, and yet at the same time we are grieving our parents. Life was really hopeless, and the only way that we could try to survive was to use drugs and alcohol, to forget, to help us to be able to sleep. Yes, we would drink until we slept. Otherwise, we could not sleep, because what we saw with our young eyes was something that we were never prepared to see. It is something we had never expected to see, and it was traumatizing. The food in the refugee camp was not enough, because lots of refugees kept coming. The hygiene was, they gave us refugee tents, small tents. Sometimes we are supposed to erect our gross such houses because of the influx. The clothes, they brought clothes once in a while, so we'd wear those old clothes full of lice. We suffered from scabies and other malnutritional things. Life was really hopeless. And on top of that, the Sudanese People's Liberation Army, the SPLA, kept on coming and trying to recruit young boys. So many young boys kept disappearing. So we were living in great fear. When I was 16, I was abducted and taken to a fight in the SPLA, in hope that we are defending our nation. We are fighting for the people that were killed, our relatives that were killed. And my brother, he died. He was shot dead in the SPLA in the war in 1999. Yes. That moment, life became hopeless, because he was my bigger brother, and he was the one that my hopes depended on. He was the guy, got comfort and encouragement. We were struggling together. So when he was shot dead, it was a very, very painful experience. Thought of committing suicide more and more. Sometimes I would hold a gun on my head, but I did not get the courage to blow it, because I would hear the voice of my mother saying, "Be strong, be courageous, you'll overcome, God is with you." All those, I think that is what kept me going. It was in 2000 when the Sudanese government bombed the camp where we were as the SPLA, the group that I was in. So when the bombs were falling on the camp, I was able to run. Just like the other lost boys of Sudan, I did not know where I was going, just running any direction. And by God's grace, I found myself in the border of Uganda and Sudan. I don't know how I got there, but I believe God led me to go that way. And I was speaking Madi because I was in northern Uganda for some time. So there was a lady who spoke Madi, and I told her the struggles that I've been through, and she helped to transport me to Kampala, the capital city of Uganda. Arrived in Kampala, I don't know nobody, I cannot speak the language. I ended up in the streets of Kampala eating from the garbage cans with no hope to survive for around 2 months, sleeping on the pavements of Kampala. Those were really tough experiences, but I believe that even in those experiences, God was somehow watching over me. Yes. Now, one day, I was looking for food in the garbage cans. Then a truck driver called me and said, "Come here. What's happening?" So he was speaking English. I learned some English in the refugee camp. We had some British missionaries that taught us. So with the little English that I knew, I told him my journey. I tried to narrate the journey and how I ended. He wanted to know why I was in the streets, why I was eating from the garbage cans. Then he bought me a plate of food. So when I told him my story, God touched his heart. His name was Anthony. He told me, "I feel God leading me to take you to a country where you will be safe." I didn't know where we were going. We became friends. I did not have a passport. So every time we reached a border where they have to check the passport, he would hide me behind in the truck with the goods there. And slowly it took so many months. We were headed to South Africa. Then I ended up in Johannesburg with them. And he gave me some monies and he bought me some clothes. He said, "Here, you're going to find lots of people from your countries and you're going to survive." For the first time, I'm in a world-class city, Johannesburg. So as I'm walking, I'm admiring this big city. I met some two guys, criminals with a gun, and they took everything that I had, that this guy had given me the money. I found myself in Joburg Park, and I had my first night there. Then back to street life. So my street life in Kampala prepared me for my street life in Johannesburg. But now in Johannesburg, it was worse. It was around April, and it was winter. My first time of kind of winter experience and sleeping in the pavements, it was difficult, very, very difficult. Then I joined, there were already some street kids there, so I joined them, and in Johannesburg, the street kids were clever because there were lots of abandoned buildings, so they were sleeping in those abandoned buildings. So I joined them and spent time in those abandoned buildings. And during the day, would go to the tax rank. There are tax ranks, and there are lots of women cooking there. So we would wait for the leftovers there and eat, then walk around the streets. And then one day, after 1 month, as I'm walking in the streets, I hear people speak a language that I could speak from northern Uganda. And I told them, "Hey guys, can you help me?" And they said, "We cannot help you, but there's a pastor, a Baptist pastor, who helps people like you." And they showed me the pastor's office. I went to the pastor and introduced myself to him, and I told him I needed help. I told him my story. And he said, "I do not have a decent place, but I'm helping already some refugees from Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda. They live inside the church. So you can join them and live in the church." joined the worshiping team. I don't know how to sing, but I realized that God had given me a second chance. Joined the worshiping team, and 2001, the pastor took me to seminary. Then I began to preach the gospel like never before, sharing my story. And then I got a scholarship from the Southern Baptist. I graduated in 2003. Then an American pastor was in South Africa. When he heard my story, he came to Northern Seminary. He told them my story, and I applied, and the seminary gave me 100% scholarship to come here. So that has been the journey. But I'm grateful to God. I realized that God saved my life to serve Him. I believe that God has given me the opportunity to forgive. Yes, I've forgiven the people that killed my parents. I used to have strong resentment towards Muslims. And it's amazing, the couple that taught me how to drive here in America, it was a Muslim family. So it was kind of interesting. I believe from that moment, I believe that really my heart had fully forgiven what had happened. Sometimes things happen, we don't know why. But I believe that the devil uses people to do things that are inhuman to other people. But it doesn't mean that they are really bad. So I draw inspiration from people like Nelson Mandela. Yes, coming back from prison after 27 years and forgiving the people that put him there. I tell people that you live in a blessed nation. So give your life to God, and God has blessed you so much. You need to learn how to love God, because to whom much is given, much is required. So I encourage American Christians to be strong in the Lord, because in my country it's not as rich as here, but people have God and they're willing to die for God. God is all that they have. So what I've noticed here is that people believe in God, but they don't depend on God. So I'd encourage them to believe and to depend fully on God.